Hey!
This is JJ and Alex.
I made a name for myself, I told you I won't be denied.
As you wrap up your day, it's time to get your fix of the teams you live for and the sports you love. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome on in. JJ and Alex, 97.5 EKSL Sports Zone. Alex, Kirry, Jeremiah Jensen. Thanks for being with us on the program. JJ, we got some College World Series up in the studio.
Which is really fun.
How
cool was yesterday?
I love the College World Series. Just the finality of, like, it's not just the national championship. Obviously, Omaha has its own vibe.
Yeah.
Right? Oklahoma City for the Women's College World Series is its own vibe. Right? You know, all the home runs get returned to the family members, you know, of the person who hit the home run. Just like little things that make it. And I will tell you that, and I think I sent you guys a video yesterday, right, of Grand Canyon University.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was their beach volleyball program.
It's their men's volleyball program.
It's the men's volleyball program. The men's volleyball program, which was actually pretty dang good.
Yeah.
Got the rug ripped out from under him with a meeting that happened that was just, hey, thank you so much. This is no longer a program. You do not, I don't know if you can take the scholarship away.
It's now a club sport.
So it's a club sport now. They've walked away from it. There's a financial obligation that the school had that they are interested in putting in other places. Grand Canyon University, I'm pretty sure, is a privately funded religious school, right? But they're like
religion part I'm not sure about, but it is privately funded.
But they're like everybody else, which is they have to make sure that athletic department gets going. And they had these 22-year-olds in tears who were told in what they called a 4-minute stand-up meeting that they are no longer playing volleyball at Grand Canyon University.
It is a private Christian university, and that's an athletic program that does not have football.
No, but basketball's huge. Everything that, by the way, Grand Canyon, everything that they've done, it seems like that they're pretty darn good at all the sports that they participate in. They're the ones to beat in the WAC, right?
Yep.
They go to the NCAA tournament as the basketball representative of the WAC typically. This is like a program that is definitely, kind of a lower group of five. I hope I'm not offending anybody.
But this isn't a Chicago State or some one of these programs from the South that's really struggling financially.
No.
And they're still having to make some tough decisions.
But what it is it's not a Power 4 program. Mm-hmm. When we start to see Power 4 programs, and I know the University of Utah's beach volleyball program got blitzed, right? I think you're going to see cuts to certain things like that. When it starts to hit bigger programs that have, life to them. When Title IX made schools have to make tough decisions. When BYU dropped their wrestling program, right? That was a huge deal. It had a big history, right? But it was not in. They had to figure it out. And like that, when you start to see big programs, bigger schools have to announce the day that some of these schools announce that they're gone, it's just crazy. And I know this is a long-winded way of saying that imagine baseball not being at Oregon State in the future, right? Oregon State is a staple at the College World Series, it seems like, in the past 3 decades, right? Imagine some of these schools going, we can't afford it anymore. You know what I mean? Like, we just can't. We're trying to put all this money into it. I think you're going to see a little bit more of that, and you're going to have to see some tough decisions being made. But I'm glad that the College World Series is one of those that it feels like going forward, baseball has been prioritized in some weird way too in all the athletic discussions that we've seen that these schools have had.
It's just about whether or not they have people that are friends of the program that are willing to fund it.
Yep.
And as long as that's the case, you can keep them alive. But how many people are willing to keep some of those programs alive? That's a tough question to answer. And every school's going to have their challenges in doing so.
Well, our program, sorry to be such a downer, JJ.
Yeah, well, start really positive and
hey,
jeez.
I didn't announce a death.
Hey,
you guys need to settle down.
Cool. I hope it doesn't go away. Hope all this house settlement stuff doesn't ruin college baseball.
Don't make
That'd
me that
be a
guy.
real shame. Did you hear about Grand Canyon losing their volleyball team? Hey, did you know Utah cut beach volleyball too? Hey, they're coming.
I'm just saying.
Hey, BYU, they're coming for your programs.
You're acting like some guy shows up. You know the bad guy in Raiders of the Lost Ark? Or, in Raiders of the Lost Ark, the guy with the glasses, like he shows up and goes, "We're going to have to cut your volleyball program." Like, no, that's not what, I'm not saying it.
So if some weird German with thick glasses comes to your school, you better look out.
It would be a shame, Fraulein, if your baseball stadium were to be used as housing. Like, come on. It's not going to happen like that. But I do think there are going to be some weird, your alma mater, whoever's listening out there, across wherever you're, coming in from here, your alma mater is going to make an announcement in the next 5 years that's going to sit really weird about making some cuts in programs that you maybe loved, you know what I mean? Or maybe you even participated in.
How about all these athletes that spend their entire adolescence and their parents paying for their training,
right,
only to learn that once they get to be 16, 17, 8 years old, the carpet's been pulled out from under them, and there's no scholarship opportunities that they worked hard for anymore.
One of the guys, they were showing this video, and he goes, there are 21 guys now in the transfer portal. So if you need some dudes for your volleyball team, I don't know.
Where do you go?
I know. It's crazy. So these are all conversations. Look, it's a June conversation. When football hits, JJ, I won't let this negative stuff hit because it won't matter until the next offseason. Then we start talking about how bad everything is and how greedy these kids are. Our program brought to you by G2G Bars. All natural ingredients and no preservatives make the G2G Bar the perfect protein bar. Let's jump into the program officially here. Oklahoma City hasn't just taken control of this series. They've won the last 2 games in this series. Tyrese Halliburton leaves with a calf strain for a moment, says if he can walk, he's going to play, and that's going to be down to it. Have these finals taken a turn finally in favor of the Thunder, who have now regained control from a win perspective? They're just 1 win away from that NBA final and that from that NBA World Championship. And, man, weird times for Oklahoma City fans who are sitting there going, I mean, we wanted success. We didn't know if it was going to happen this early. Whoops. So we'll get into that. Game 5 was very, very interesting last night, and Oklahoma City asserted some dominance. Let's get to the cut right here.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Lugens down the lane on Nembhard. Sidesteps him, kicks to Dub, wide open, left wing 3 on the way. Touching it Thunder, money ball. Oh, that was nice. Slashing left away from Nembhard, down the lane, high off the windows. Sips home, a high arcing right-hand layup. Thunder 110, the Pacers 97. Is this young team something? Answering the call in Game 5. Jalen Williams, massive with 37. Shea, blasting inside away from Nembhard. Shuttle feeds Dort. Right wing Dove, wide open, strokes a 3. In there, cha-ching it Thunder money ball. Jalen Williams, 33 and counting. Thunder making shots, 98-93, 8 minutes to play.
It's something more that I'll look back on later on than worry about what kind of statement it makes. I think the only statement we have right now is we're up 3-2, and we still have to go earn another win. But it'll be cool to look back on later on, and hopefully somewhere down the line I'll have a more fun answer for you.
Trajan Wealth brings you this portion of the program, top of the hour, the cut. TRAJAN Wealth.com. That's TrajanWealth.com for all your trusted local needs in retirement. JJ, first of all, touching out Thunder Moneyball. I think he got into that. I think that guy had that call, and now he can't shake it, and he has to say it now like it's sponsored by the Oklahoma Lottery. Touching out Thunder Moneyball. I don't know, and now it's going to stick in my head forever. It's catchy. It sounds really weird, but it's catchy. How about 40 from Jalen Williams last night? How about how big he came up when, obviously, the Pacers were trying to make sure that there was no answer from SGA, and Jalen Williams did what so many other guys who play second fiddle on teams in massive games have done, which is answer the call and say, you know what, I'll carry this team on your back. To the tune of 40 points, though, JJ, that's phenomenal.
This is a guy who was picked, 11th in the draft. He was one of the picks that they got in the Paul George trade again, SGA and Jalen Williams, part of that trade. And it's crazy. And I believe the Clippers missed the playoffs that year because in the play-in, Paul George had COVID, if I remember right. So just the circumstances of the Thunder getting that pick, selecting Jalen Williams in that 2022 draft, in a draft where they also drafted Chet Holmgren. That one draft is really defining their success. And, of course, the trade with the SGA had a big deal to do with that in Paul George. But it's crazy to see his ascension from a guy from Santa Clara that we used to watch when BYU played Santa Clara, and he's a good player. Did I think he was going to be a guy that would end up scoring 40 in an NBA Finals? Can't say I saw that, but I'm no NBA scout. But somebody with the Thunder really liked him. And he's turning out to be one of the best value picks in the NBA in the last 10 or 20 years. Because there's not many number 11 picks in a draft that's going to end up scoring 25, 30, 35, 40 points in an NBA Finals. You see his line and his box score throughout this Finals continues to grow and ascend by each and every game. And as the Pacers try to make life difficult for SGA, it's made life easier for Jalen Williams to find those opportunities to score. And if you have this much talent and this much high-level talent, as Jalen Williams begins to ascend to superstar status, because if you're scoring 40 in NBA Finals, I'm sorry, even by Magic Johnson's definition, I mean, people are going to want to come see this Jalen Williams guy play basketball. You're going to want to see the Thunder play basketball. So, yes, I think he's entering superstar status. It's tough to think that the Pacers have any chance here in Game 6 or Game 7 if they're fortunate enough to force a return to Oklahoma City. But this is a Thunder team that's going to be a problem for years to come as long as they can keep this nucleus together. They're all going to want to get paid more money.
Yeah.
That's going to be an issue, and that's going to be a decision they have to make. But how many championships, if the Thunder finish this game off in Game 6 or Game 7, finish the series off in Game 6 or Game 7, how many can this team win?
Well,
and who's going to stop them?
Let me ask you this legitimately. Maybe the team inside the locker room thought to themselves, this is like, I think we're good enough to win this title. It's one thing to say that. Do you think the front office had this as another stepping stone year to a championship in the future? Because if you win a championship, whoops, we won the championship a little bit earlier ahead of schedule. Why wouldn't they have? I mean, obviously they did all the things that they could to get to this spot, but they're going to win a championship ahead of schedule, and they are going to be deadly for at least 3 more seasons. I'm trying to think what would break that thing apart.
Free agency is the only thing
right, and
that could break it.
Who is it that walks away from it first? Is it Jalen Williams wanting to be his own?
Is it Chet Holmgren that wants to be the man somewhere? Because right now he's going to be their number 3 guy. Is he content with that?
So he's the James Harden of this particular Thunder group?
Essentially. He's not coming off the bench, though.
No, that's true. But I mean, think about what that – when we looked at those guys as being like the big 3 kind of on that team, right? KD, Russ, and James Harden.
Yeah.
And they certainly – all got to that level of being on their individual teams as being the guy, right? And
they have money to spend in free agency.
That's what
they could go.
That's what I was going to say.
I shouldn't say free. Look, free agency is not a thing this year. We've talked to a lot of people. No. Let me say it this way: they have room under the cap to make room
to
and go get a trade and make a trade and use some of their assets to do it, and possibly just using draft pick assets. No one has more than them.
Hey, kudos to the Pacers who are in the middle of a finals run right now, and they went out and started doing some work on the draft, right? They make a trade. They trade away their first-round pick, and they're like, hey, we're trying to get creative here on how to make this thing last into the future. You know what they see? Not necessarily the writing on the wall of them not winning this championship. That's not it. What it is you've got to plan ahead. I love that Indiana was in trade talks last night and made a trade today, right? They're in Game 5 last night, and their front office is also juggling the plates over here of trying to be a team good going forward. And if you're not doing that, it doesn't. But for some franchises, we know they don't give 2 craps about doing the work, right? I'm looking at you, New York teams, right? I mean, you're looking at if the New York Knicks were in the finals, would there ever have been a trade that they were considering in the offseason? I don't freaking think so.
No. This is the first time in my lifetime I remember the Knicks having enough trade assets to even talk about making a trade.
Right. So in my mind, what's crazy about what's happening in this whole situation to me, what's crazy about this going the way that it is that these are 2 teams that could be very dangerous going forward, and they were not in the plan. For the West even, I think that we probably, in our heart of hearts, had the Timberwolves being maybe this team this year, right?
I think a lot of people thought the Mavericks and Lakers
right.
would be the teams, honestly.
Sure, I know.
And we didn't see a Luka trade coming.
And in the East, plans have changed because of one Achilles. But for the two Achilles for the entire East, by the way.
Yeah, completely changed everything next year.
And so now you look at what that ripple effect is, and frankly, like you said, I mean, everybody having the conversation now about, is Boston seriously going to pay that much money to have nothing happen next year? That's a tough price to pay. A franchise that usually plans so far ahead, when they hit something like this, it's hard to figure out. And by the way, you go through enough of a year like this, if you're Boston, and your window could already be shutting, not just because your guys haven't been on the floor playing together for a full year, and your superstar's out, but because everybody else got really good in the offseason. We talked about how scary the proposition is of the Magic being really good. The Pistons could make a move or two just in the draft and go out there and be as good as Cleveland right across the way.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a scary proposition because of the jump that they had. We totally forget about the historic turnaround that Detroit had is not getting enough attention in the East, right? Now, we're talking about stupid Eastern teams right now, and I told myself I wasn't going to do this. But the West is going to get even better, and then it all comes back to, JJ, where on earth are the Jazz in all this discussion? Where are they in this process? Is there a way that the Jazz can do what the Thunder did, not in the sense of building something so quickly that, whoops, we won a championship ahead of schedule, but do they have it? Do they have what it takes to be able to build a team at the rate that they want to be able to have the success that they want going forward? And what does the reality look like? Is there ever going to be a 20 years in a row going to the playoffs again type of a season or type of a run for this Jazz team? Or is it just build up and break down and try to win championships in those windows? Is that what we've turned into in the NBA?
Well, under this new collective bargaining agreement, I think that's the case.
There's no longevity with
players are not going to play 20 years in one spot anymore. There's going to be rare exceptions. You're seeing Steph Curry at the end of his career. Still great, don't get me wrong, but he's definitely towards the end, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, how many more years can he play? I can't think of another guy that's been with their team their entire career at this point. And you're seeing that already starting. Now, maybe this Thunder group can stay together for a long, long time, but the trends and recent history tells us that that's just not reality. So that's certainly the case. The way that, you look at the way the Pacers were built, you look at the way the Thunder were built. There's not a blueprint. There's not one way to do it. In the past, tank and get the number 1 overall pick. You got a 25% chance to win it, and then build through the draft. Okay. Well, the Jazz just tried that, and it doesn't feel like they're any closer than they were before. Then you look at the way the Pacers did it. The Pacers don't have a number 1 overall pick on their roster. The Thunder have a number 2 overall pick, and then the rest of their guys are guys taken in the late lottery or middle of first round.
Yeah.
Or guys they picked up off, second round. I mean, they built a team in a very unusual way, as did the Pacers. The Pacers rolled the dice on a Tyrese Halliburton trade where they gave up Domantas Sabonis, which at the time it felt like the Kings won that trade, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Until recent history, everyone thought the Kings won that trade. 2 years ago when the Kings were in the playoffs, it's like the Kings won that trade.
Yeah.
Now it seems a little different. Pascal Siakam.
Oh, yeah.
They went all in on Pascal Siakam, and everyone's like, is he a good enough player to go all in on like that? You sure about that? You sure about that? Yeah. We're sure now. So you don't know. So both of these teams had unusual ways of building championship rosters. So is there one way for the Jazz to do it? I don't think so. And it's going to be Austin Ainge's challenge to be able to figure out a way to do it his way.
So that's what I want to know is what is his way? What are the things that he wants to do? I think everybody knows that Justin Zanuck and Danny Ainge, like you get those two guys in a room, you're pretty hard pressed to find smarter dudes in a front office
when it comes to building basketball rosters.
And then when you add Austin Ainge to the mix, then you go, okay, there's an aligned thought process here with this whole group. And if you want to call that nepotism, fine. The reality is that Austin Ainge learned from the best, right?
If it doesn't work, we'll cry nepotism. If it works great, we'll call it keeping it in the family.
If it works great, Brad Stevens will show up and be like, I taught him all that. Okay, it's not. He doesn't. His dad. He's only here for like 2 seconds.
Look,
when his dad
if the Jazz turn into build a championship roster, who cares? Who cares? If they don't, then yeah, we're all going to be picking things apart.
Yeah. Well,
that's the business. That's how it works.
Game 5 was a massive letdown for Pacers fans, and I think that we saw a turn in this series that feels like it would be something that would be tough to come back from.
Is Tyrese Halliburton done?
Is he even healthy enough to be able to?
Can he play in
go?
Game 6?
I think he's going to try to force the issue.
I think the Pacers can win Game 6 and force a Game 7. I don't like their chances coming back to Oklahoma City. I think it'll go the same way that the Nuggets Thunder series went with a blowout. But I think the Pacers can definitely force a Game 7. But ultimately, we're going to be seeing a parade in Oklahoma City.
I don't know if there's a crazier story across professional sports when you talk about what's the equivalent of the Oklahoma City Thunder winning the title in the NFL, for example. What's the equivalent?
It's the Green Bay Packers.
See, to me, that's not.
It's the New Orleans Saints. It's the Buffalo Bills.
For the Thunder, to me,
small market team.
It's Jacksonville. Like semi-new feeling.
Okay, yeah, throw them in. Yeah,
weird
sure.
colors. That
the Thunder have had success. I don't, outside.
I know.
The Paul George trade they had to tank a bit, but they bounced right back. They only missed the playoffs for 3 years.
Well, and the Jaguars have been to a couple of AFC Championship games too.
Yeah,
but
I think I don't mind your comparison.
That's
small
what I'm
market
saying is
team.
I'm trying to imagine what that would feel
that makes great, that stacks, as Austin Andrews would say, a small market team that stacks great decisions. I feel like it's the Buffalo Bills.
If in 3 years Jacksonville turned it all around and they became a team and they won the title, I think that's the feeling it would be. Semi-new team, one of the more new feeling teams in the entire league, in a market that is kind of forgettable, especially in the Florida.
A young, fun team that we didn't see coming.
Right. What is it in Major League Baseball? What is it in Major League Baseball? It's the Seattle Mariners.
No, I just stop. Stop it.
It'd be Vegas or something. No, I don't know what it would be.
I don't know. Well, who's that young and up and coming Major
know.
League Baseball team that's exceeding expectations this year?
Who's that one team?
Is it the Detroit Tigers?
The Yankees? They got some young guys.
Oh, stop.
All right, we'll take a break. Hey, when we come back, let's talk a little bit more about the NBA. Jared Weiss covers the NBA for The Athletic. He's based out of Boston, too, so he covers a lot of the Celtics talk, but obviously the finals is where we're going to kind of hit things with him. But we will ask him about the Austin Ainge connection there and what type of a get that is for Jazz fans as well. So stay right here with us. More to go right around the corner. Jared Weiss writes for the NBA for The Athletic, and he covers the NBA for The Athletic. He's going to join us next right here, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest name.
You're locked into JJ and Alex with the insight and analysis on the teams you can't live without. Presented by G2G Bars. This is 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back to the program where we are having a weird rejoin musical day.
I told you yesterday.
See, but listen.
Alex took shots at ska. I said, all right.
Yeah, but
we're going to have a ska day tomorrow.
Sublime is rocking right here.
There's good ska. I'll find you some great ska punk from the 90s and 2000s.
I think I'm more thinking of you're trying to deliver me the ska that is like the filet mignon. I'm talking about the ska.
Like you talking about the specials? Like what are you?
I'm talking about the ska that
stuff,
is
like
definitely
from the 70s
like a
and Great
fast
Britain?
food version of it that is not good.
Fast food.
Because Sublime just there when the drop happened, they went straight to rocking, right?
Sure.
Crap ska goes to the horns. Give me that third trombone over there. That's what I can't stand.
Sublime plays horns?
No, but I know Sublime is different for me. I don't know. There's some crap ska that we're going to be getting back to later. So you tell me.
I hope we don't.
Throughout the day, JJ's trying to convince
Alex
me.
plays the best ones.
JJ's trying to convince me.
I gave him plenty of good cuts.
I know. Don't do the thing where you're just like, I'm going to only play the best ones. Play the stuff that sucks so that we know why ska is terrible. All right? Anyway, hit us up. Tell us why ska is terrible. Jensen at KSL.com.
There you
go. Joining us on the program right now as we fight over ska music. Jared Weiss, he covers the NBA for The Athletic. And Jared, first of all, Awesome job covering these finals. We certainly thought that the team that you cover a lot there in Boston was going to be there at this point. How shocked have you been at the run that the Pacers have had in these playoffs?
It's been miraculous. This has been the craziest run that I can think of in my time around the league. I mean, we're seeing this team that started the season middle of the pack. They were genuinely struggling. Their star player was playing terribly. And they turned things around pretty steadily over the course of the winter. And, usually teams, they kind of go through ups and downs. They kind of go through ebbs and flows throughout the regular season. But basically since December, when Halliburton started to get his act together, when Nembhard got healthy, they have been a juggernaut. They've been playing at a borderline elite level, a little bit below where Boston and OKC and Cleveland were most of the year, but they were playing great. And so I think what's just interesting about this is we always wonder how important is coming into the playoffs with momentum. And, we've seen a few recent champions that they kind of sputtered their way into the postseason, and then they ended up winning it because they turned it on. Well, Indiana's just been kind of, pedal to the metal since January. And it's amazing to see how far it took them. And, who knows if they would be leading the finals right now if Halliburton was healthy. Obviously, it was pretty apparent that he was limited, and that really harmed them in crunch time. And I don't know if they would have won that game, but they probably would have had a little bit better of a chance. But Indiana is good enough to be a champion, that's for sure. Whether they will be one, probably not the way things are going right now, but they certainly were good enough to be.
Yeah, it's been an impressive run for the Pacers. And then you look on the other side, the Thunder did win 68 games in the regular season, but I think a lot of us were thinking, is this young team ready to take that next step? And they're one win away from proving to us that they are. If they take that next step, Jared, and they win this NBA championship, what's going to stop them in the future? There's how many championships could this group win?
Well, gravity is going to get in their way. It's kind of a tale as old as time, and by time I mean about 7 years ago, where we haven't had a repeat champion in a while. It's been a long time. Was it the last Warriors that won back-to-backs?
Yes.
The KD, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. So you need 4 Hall of Famers if you want to be a back-to-back team. And you can't do that anymore. The second apron, the play-in tournament, the flattened lottery odds, it is all of it has achieved its intention of completely flattening out the landscape and making things wide open. And so, maybe this year the Thunder and the Celtics and the Cavs seemed like pretty dramatic favorites. Maybe Denver did at one point. I mean, hey, Denver got the Game 7, right? So, those 4 teams seemed like they were on a different echelon than the rest of the league. And we should have seen this coming with the Pacers because, the numbers backed it up that the Pacers were kind of right on the border of that caliber team. But we're seeing with injuries, Cleveland got hurt, Boston got hurt. That's a huge part of why Indiana's there. Most years, the team that wins the championship is the team that stayed the healthiest. And we're going to see that again now, where now that Halliburton has his calf strain, it's going to come down to that as well, is that he was hurt in that second half. He didn't play he couldn't score, and that really hurt the Pacers. And so, health is a huge part of it. And it's a skill to stay healthy. It's not just luck. There's a lot to it. And so I don't think the Thunder will stay healthy for the next 10 years and win every single championship. And they're not going to be able to keep the supporting cast together. If they were able to, coming into this year, lock up so many of their supporting guys to pretty solid contracts, but all those contracts are going to pile up to huge penalties in the next couple of years, and they're going to have to pivot out of it. And that's how the system works. And that's how the system is designed. It's supposed to make it almost impossible to repeat. Now, the Thunder probably could repeat next year, but holding it together for 4 or 5 years is probably not a thing anymore.
As you look at this series and you've been able to watch now SGA from a game-by-game basis and not just maybe a one-off game here and there, but do you look at it and go, that dude is a bona fide MVP of the league? And what has it been like to kind of watch what he's done in this series on top of what he did this year for this Oklahoma City team?
I think what's funny about SGA is that he's so steady that it feels like you're watching the same exact thing that you saw 5 months ago. He is just what made him great is that he just gets the 32 points every night, and it's not obvious that he's scoring a ton. And it's funny where you see all these stats about how he's the 4th or 5th player ever to score 30 points like 15 times in the playoff run. And that's just funny because like every single night, he just kind of like just barely meanders his way up to 30. And it doesn't feel like he's dominating, but he's just so reliable. And he'll have a couple moments where he just hits a couple pull-ups in a row. But he doesn't do too many crazy things. He does every once in a while, but he is just so steady and reliable. And it gives more room for J-Dub and Chet Holmgren to do some of the more fascinating, unique stuff. And just to have that kind of metronome, keeping your team consistent, on tempo, I feel like the Thunder, what makes them so great is that they don't go through lulls in the same ways that most teams do. Like their defense is always on point. Their offense generally is pretty steady. And they, I think like Boston was the same way last year where they just had such a depth of creation and they had so much steadiness in their creation and their defense was always consistent that they just were able to beat teams by being good the entire game. And that's why both of these teams put up such historic numbers. It's because the NBA is less about these like superstar trios, which, hey, the Thunder might have one, and they might have drafted one with SGA, J-Dub, and Chet, which is why they have a better chance of longevity, just because these guys are drafted and they're going to be locked in long term, and they'll probably be able to keep them. But like teams are built on depth more than they have been in the last like 25 years, basically.
We knew Jalen Williams was a good player coming into this playoffs, and now we're seeing him take it to another level. I mean, 40 points in a finals game is insane. How do we judge Jalen Williams now as far as his status in the league? I mean, is he officially a superstar based on what he's doing in this finals, and how much room does he have to grow to get even better?
I'd probably say superstar. He's like it's hard to define superstar when you're this early into your career because he hasn't had like a ton of postseason experience. He's only been in the league for 3 years, but his postseason experience in his first couple of years has been pretty rich, right? So, he's proven that he's an elite player in the finals, and I think that's probably all you need to be a superstar. But he's a very fascinating guy. He's got a gorgeous game. He's a triple threat two-way wing, which is the kind of gold standard for what people are looking for out of a star player. So I think he's a superstar. And I think anybody that watched him last year knew that he was going to be an all-star this year. And I think what's impressive with him is that he's just continued to get better, especially as the postseason has gone on. Like, it's kind of crazy how ahead he is. Like, someone that I've covered for a long time that has a lot of similarities to him is Jaylen Brown. And he's like as good as Jaylen Brown is now, probably, if you kind of look at the differences in their games. I think it levels out to like he's as good as Jaylen Brown and maybe even a little bit better just because his three-point shots are more reliable and his defense is even better. Like, it's kind of crazy that J-Dub is this good in year three. And you look at how good he is in year three, how good Chet is, and this is like Chet's basically played like one total full season between all the years that he's been since he's been drafted. Like, are these guys going to get that much better? How high is the ceiling? Are they going to have three bona fide elite superstars? And if that's the case, then, going back to what we were talking about before, the league, like the second apron, makes it impossible to keep your entire roster together. But if those three guys are going to fit the bell curve of their trajectory the way that it's looking, then this team is going to be so insanely stacked with its core three that they can do whatever they want around around them, and they're probably still going to be a championship caliber team for as long as we can, think of.
You covered the Celtics for The Athletic, and we'd love to pick your brain on Austin Ainge, the new president of basketball operations for the Utah Jazz. What do you think of the hire, and how qualified is he for this opportunity?
Well, he's certainly qualified, and obviously people are going to just immediately point to his dad being in charge there. It was funny about the timing of this was that we all kind of expected that he would go with Danny when Danny got the job, and it didn't happen right away. And I mean, sure, that worked out for Austin because we got a championship out of it. What Austin brings is obviously he's got a ton of experience working both under Danny and also under Brad Stevens, who are two very different GMs, but both great GMs. And so he's seen a lot of, and he's also been on the inside of the decision-making circle for a long time in Boston. Like Boston, they have about I would say 4-person kind of like core decision-making circle at the assistant GM level with Stevens. And so he's been a part of that for a long time. He is a very good scout. Like he spends a lot of his season overseas scouting. And so, like that's probably when I think of like what's Austin's forte, I would probably say his scouting is probably the first thing I think of. But he's a pretty well-rounded GM who has learned from some of the best, and he's a good pick for it regardless of whether or not his dad is the guy in charge. Like, I think Austin he interviewed for the Charlotte role before Jeff Peterson got it. He's interviewed for several roles now. He's been getting closer and closer to getting one. So he certainly is qualified for it, and I think he's in a very interesting time to join this franchise, talking about they're not going to be taking any more. It's, tough figuring out what exactly Utah's direction is with the way the roster is currently constructed. But obviously they have so many assets that they can play with, and they have to start consolidating and turning it into something real. So he's kind of coming in at a very good time to get hired into this job where it's time to start actually catching their chips and start to mold this style of play into something.
As you look at this, as we wrap up this conversation, does this go to a Game 7? And if it does, is it just basically hinging on whether or not Tyrese Halliburton is able to go 100%?
Yeah, I would say that if Halliburton is fine, then I think it'll go back there. I think the Thunder would probably win in 7 at that point. But if Halliburton is really if he's like what we saw in last game, then there's just no way they're going to win. I just can't imagine it. And maybe they get amazing play from their role players, and that makes up for it. And maybe Nembhard comes through big because I think a big part of Game 4 was Nembhard had to get pulled in the fourth quarter from McConnell. He just didn't have it. And they really, really rely on him to step up, and Halliburton doesn't have it. And he just couldn't score against that defense. And so if that's what's going to continue, then I wouldn't imagine they could win Game 6. But this series and the Pacers in general have flip-flopped very dramatically between games. And so they certainly can pull this off, especially we just saw how well the role players played for each of these teams when they're at home. Found the classic adage of role players are better at home. It certainly is possible they can send us back, but I just think OKC they're just too good to be able to beat them without your best player playing his best. I just can't imagine it.
A lot of NBA insiders we've talked to recently, the buzz is the same, that there could be a lot of movement and a lot of trades in the offseason. Especially where you cover Boston, there's some uncertainty about what they're going to do with this Jason Tatum trade. What are you hearing? Injury. What are you hearing around the league, and do you have get that same sentiment that there's going to be a lot of aggressiveness in the league this offseason?
I think so, and a big part of it, obviously everyone says this, but it could start with Brian Windhorst says this 2 months ago, and therefore everybody's saying it. It all just kind of starts from one person saying it. But I think the big thing is that Des Bane got traded so far before the draft, and I thought Memphis got a great deal for that. But the fact that Orlando wanted to close on that deal this early before the market really heats up, I think tells you that they're expecting a ton of activity, because you wouldn't close on this deal this early when you have time. You have time to see who else is out there. You get closer to the draft night, and teams are more willing to actually make a deal. Orlando had time to wait on this if they so chose, but whether it's Memphis called them and said, we have another trade that we're about to take, so we're doing this now, or they just wanted to get there before the market started heating up, before this Kevin Durant stuff really took off, because as much as the KD sweepstakes have taken off, we haven't seen any actual offers yet. We don't really know exactly what the pick valuation is there with him. And so, they paid a pretty good price for him, but it also kind of makes sense considering they're at the point of their franchise development where they're looking for a 5-year postseason run now, and they can live without the draft picks. So I like the move for Orlando, if Bane can stay healthy. But if Orlando's going in this early on that deal, that tells me that there's a lot more action coming up.
Jared Weiss, he covers the NBA for The Athletic. You can read his byline there and get updates on any of this and much, much more. The in-depth stuff that he does is phenomenal. Take a look at it. Jared, thanks for taking some time out today, and we appreciate it, and we'll chat with you again in the future.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys.
There you go. Jared Weiss. Do you think I don't know what I always think of Varsity Blues when they're like, hit him with the injection. Whatever it takes. They're like, shut the door over there. We can give him the injection. Because
you have some evil coach lurking in the background.
I mean, and not all injuries are created equal, obviously, per player, but this is the biggest moment of this guy's life. We were just talking about before the show. If Indiana loses this series, let's say they even lose it in Game 6, then are we going to look at this and go, oh, wow, we may have just talked about this might be the most important that Tyrese Halliburton has ever been his entire career, and we won't talk about him like this ever again? There's a real possibility of that happening, because when is he going to get back to a final? You never know. When is he going to get – I mean, obviously he's at a level of ball right now. He plays great basketball. He is an 18-point-a-game guy. He's not a 27.5 who's going to turn that. Remember when Jalen Brunson was 22.5 or 23 when he was in Dallas? As soon as he got to New York, what happened? He's the 30-point-a-game guy.
Yeah.
Because they knew that was the next evolution. Is the evolution of Tyrese Halliburton that he becomes a 30-point game a guy? I don't know if that's his.
I don't know if that's his game.
I don't think so either.
He does so many other. He rebounds well. He's a very efficient passer.
Great. Then we won't ever talk about him again. Like that's what I'm saying. Like we don't.
To Jared's point, I asked him about the Thunder. When does this stop? Well, he says, well, there's a lot of reasons why this could stop, and he listed off those reasons. We live now in an era of NBA basketball where change is going to happen rapidly, and windows of opportunity for NBA titles couldn't close rapidly. We're not going to see the Golden State Warriors that we saw the last decade. We're not going to see that kind of dynasty. As much as the Thunder look built for it right now, how do they pay all those guys? Are they willing to pay that much luxury tax? The whole system's set up to prevent long-running dynasties from occurring and spreading the wealth. So that opens the door for a lot of teams. But to your point about the Pacers, this is their moment. They are 2 wins away from winning an NBA championship. They might not get this close again for a long, long time. We don't know. So the opportunity is now, and it looks like that opportunity is fleeting, and it's the Thunder's opportunity to take. But it's been an incredible run, but you're right. We're always like, okay, that was cool. All right, what's next? Oh, football season. Maybe the Pacers win 45 games next year. It's like, oh, well, that was kind of fun last year with them.
Right.
What happened to them?
Right.
We don't know. Sports are like that, and especially now in the NBA, in today's NBA, the windows of opportunity will close, and they'll close quickly, as we saw with the Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Utah Jazz. And then what?
It's a crazy thing to think that Tyrese Halliburton had one of the more historic runs, and if they lose, why would we remember the guy who had a really awesome second-place run?
You don't.
So I'm hoping that we look at it.
Do we talk about Charles Barkley's Phoenix Suns in 1994?
We do, because he didn't win. That's the way it comes up. 93? That's why it comes up. It's like, yeah, how many rings you got, Chuck?
Outside of Utah,
Right?
how many people talk about those amazing
0.
Utah Jazz teams?
Oh, you know what?
A 64-win Utah Jazz team that made it to the NBA Finals in 1998.
They were just,
outside of here. Nobody talks about it anymore.
They were just another stepping stone to where Michael Jordan became great.
They were just another victim.
Right. Yeah.
They were just another victim,
That's
and that
tough.
sucks.
Tough pill to swallow.
Yeah.
All right. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll get right back to you here when we come back. I've got a fun would you rather, okay? It's historic. It's a historic day. You didn't even know it was a historic day, JJ. And you're gonna find out. So you better stick around for this one.
I'll be ready.
By the way, if you've got a product that you're passionate about, let's give it the KSL Sports Zone treatment. Let's give it the JJ and Alex treatment. If we endorse that product of yours and you want that endorsement on our show, let's get it going. We'll talk it up. We will make that thing explode. If you've got a business or if you've got a product that you have, we want to make it shine. We want to make that thing go. Partner up with us. All you have to do is text JJ to 57500. That's JJ to 57500. And our sales staff will get a hold of you. They'll tell you exactly what those details are. And we'd love to partner up here with you and have you be the next great product on our program. So there you go. JJ, let's take a break. We'll come back. We got more to go. Stay here, 97.5 KSL Sports Zone.
Listen, everybody. Real-life hypotheticals to get your brain churning. As JJ and Alex ask, would you rather?
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5 KSL Sports Zone. Thanks for being with us on the program, everybody. Oh, Oregon State. It's the elimination game. They tied it up with Louisville. They tied it up. It's top of the ninth. I love it. I love it. See, this is the stuff I don't care for either of these teams ever. But you know what? I'm all for like a mom praying to her baseball gods that her kid can deliver.
This is everything they've worked for their entire lives.
You know what I mean? That's my favorite when they show the mom up in the stands, and you just see a woman who has been through it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying like from a look standpoint at all.
So
it's a mom who has sacrificed way too much for that little boy to be there.
I recently came across a reel on Instagram. A woman who had a son who grew up playing baseball.
Oh, is that the kid striking out?
Has recorded. She compiled all of the videos she has of her swearing after her kid strikes out.
Yeah,
from the time he was 5 until the time he was in high school.
Chris. But he was like obviously playing at some pretty higher level.
He
like
kept
baseball.
playing.
Yeah,
he kept going. He kept fighting.
I saw that same reel because somebody posted. Chris must have been a heck of a fielder because you never that poor kid. They posted that video and
is he a pitcher?
You never saw him hitting the baseball. It wasn't just not hitting it. He watched a lot of those third strikes.
He swung at some bad ones too, some high ones.
Saw some third strikes.
Mom had every reason to be upset.
Damn it, Chris!
Oh,
like,
it just over and over again.
It was so funny.
And it evolved from like S words and D words to F words.
Oh, it definitely got big.
It got pretty
that's
explicit.
What I'm saying is, you see these moms and you're like, you've been through it. You've been through it, and congrats, because you're as responsible for this kid's doing well as anybody else out there. That's why we honor the Hercules Hero of the Week award. No, I mean, really.
Yeah.
JJ, I've got something for you. McDonald's is celebrating this year. No, this isn't a commercial. McDonald's is celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Egg McMuffin. Okay? Now, it was actually invented in 72. So it's 53 years old as a product, but when McDonald's started put it on the menu officially, 50 years.
Wow.
It is very mid as a breakfast sandwich. Am I wrong?
It's one of those things you have to get if you're really hungry and you need something really quick.
Canadian bacon is not ever going to be your first choice for anything, okay? Or as they just called it, circular ham, okay? So I've got in front of me, JJ, breakfast entrees. A breakfast entrees version of Would You Rather in honor of the 50th anniversary of the McMuffin. So the McMuffin or the spicy biscuit from Chick-fil-A. The spicy breakfast biscuit.
Well, I'm going to go with the spicy biscuit.
The spicy chicken biscuit from Chick-fil-A or the Dunkin' Donuts croissant egg and cheese sandwich.
Yeah, I'm still going to stick with the
spicy
Chick-fil-A,
sandwich. Okay.
Yeah.
The spicy chicken biscuit from Chick-fil-A or the Subway steak, egg, and cheese sandwich.
Ooh, Subway steak, egg, and cheese.
Never had it.
You said steak, and you got
I got you.
Perked up my ears. It's better than a biscuit.
The Subway steak and egg and cheese sandwich or the world famous Burger King croissant sandwich.
You know what? That croissant's pretty darn good.
It really is.
I'm going to go with that.
I mean, what's good about it
if
is
you like put an English muffin on a piece of Canadian bacon and an egg.
No.
But you put a croissant on there.
It slaps, and you have to admit
Kind of does.
I love how Alex is turning his nose up at it. What is your problem? Come on.
Oh, you got a better breakfast situation out there?
Okay.
In a pinch? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He basically, you could see his stomach turn over when he heard it, though. How about, and then finally, the Burger King croissant sandwich or the ubiquitous Beto's breakfast chorizo, egg and potato cheese burrito.
Rancheritos.
Oh, Rancheritos. I'm sorry. Very
mix.
different.
I get the mix.
Oh, you do all the meats.
Oh, yeah. And then you get the green sauce.
Oh, yeah, I do it all.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I mean, everybody out there might be hating. Don't be hating on that.
No.
So in my fat days.
This is not part of the
I'm borderline now. I'm not perfect.
I'm borderline.
I'm borderline fat. I'm not. I used to be obese.
Yeah.
A little Rancheritos mixed burrito with a horchata.
With the horchata, as he says.
Oh yeah. No, you go horchata, mixed burrito.
Hey, do you have a welcome to Rancherito? What can I get you? What can I get for you? Can I get the mixed burrito and a horchata? See, kids, that's how you order.
Yeah.
Was Rancheritos where the BYU linebacker fight?
Yes.
Rancheritos,
Beto's, same thing.
Oh yeah,
man. It probably isn't, but it feels like it.
Way late. We got to get out. We got more to go right around the corner. When we return, we've got a full list as Steve Bartle has seen it as to the rankings of the Big 12 quarterbacks going into the 2025 season. So we'll have, you can go check it out for yourself. Go to KSLSports.com and look at it for yourself. Every Wednesday, by the way, is a Win Ticket Wednesday. The Monster Jam World Finals are coming up. They are coming to Salt Lake for the very first time, July 4th and 5th. Monster Jam at Rice-Eccles Stadium. Go get tickets for yourself right now at Ticketmaster or win them all day tomorrow across the entire station. We'll come back. More to go right around the corner. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.